Welcome to the City of Sails for the OC Champions League first leg final between Auckland City FC, the reigning champions, and Team Wellington, the pretenders to the title. There is so much at stake over the next two legs. The place at the FIFA Club World Cup in the UAE 2017 beckons for one of these two teams, and Team Wellington will be keen to add to their domestic title success of recent times. The trophy in your picture right there. Under coach Jose Figueira, they have closed the gap on Auckland City. They've achieved a level of parity in terms of winning trophies, but the one that has eluded them is the OC Champions League. These two teams negotiated different semi-final challenges, both from French-speaking clubs, and today they hope to put one over the other and take up a position in December at the Club World Cup in December. Let's take a look at how they made it. Team Wellington got off to a poor start in Noumea. They fell 1-0 behind. Tom Jackson levelled to make it 1-1, and very soon they were 2-1 ahead. This lovely goal at the back post from Andy Bevan looked to have given them a keen advantage until this goal by Nicola Marin squared everything up at 2-2. AS Magenta were aiming to reach their first final in over 10 years, but it was a terrible start for them at David Farrington Park. They managed to level the game, but from there, Team Wellington really turned on the afterburners and put the New Caledonians firmly in their place. Bill Robertson leading the way as ever. They ended up winning by 7-1 to take up their spot for the third consecutive season in the Champions League final. For Auckland City, it was a scrappy performance against AS Tefana in Tahiti. Cam Howson got the goal scoring underway there. And another all-white, Clayton Lewis, with the easiest of finishes to make it 2-0. There was this save from Zubi Karai that kept Tefana goalless heading into the second leg here at this venue that we described the action from today. And Auckland City were once again far too good. Emiliano Tade opened the scoring, and João Moreira soon got in on the act. Auckland City FC's record goal scorer in this competition, slotting home the second. He missed from the penalty spot right at the death, but it was purely academic by that point. Auckland City in their 7th consecutive OFC Champions League final. So we're just moments away from the start. We can now check on the formations and the team list for today's game, starting first of all with the defending champions Auckland City. There are some interesting changes here for you. Takuya Wata, Clayton Lewis, Daewoo Kim and João Moreira all get a start. De Vries, Tavano and Alfie Rogers, players who started in the Sterling Sports Premiership final, are on the bench. The formation, there are a few mysteries about this. It's the familiar 4-3-3 that is favoured by Ramon Trebulic. For Team Wellington, the big news here is that Ben Harris starts on the bench. The Sterling Sports Premiership hero for Team Wellington has been working in Nelson, we understand, and is not trained as often as coach Jose Figueira would like. But as you can see, Nicola Zambrano comes into that lineup, and so does Mario Barcia. The referee for this one is familiar to New Zealand audiences. It's Nick Waldron. And his assistant referees are Glenn Lockery of New Zealand and Folio Moiaki of Tonga. The fourth official is Campbell Kirkwar, also of New Zealand. Well, the weather in Auckland over the past 24 hours has been torrential rain. As you can see from the lovely backdrop behind the main stand here at Kiwatia Street, that has now disappeared. There is a very blustery wind that is blowing from the clubroom's end of Kiwatia Street down the ground. So any ball that's played in the air is going to be subject to that swirling effect. The temperature around 18 degrees. It's very comfortable for the players. The pitch is in fine condition, and we expect this to be an excellent game of football. Today is the 41st meeting between these two clubs in all competitions. Auckland City have won 27 of those. Team Wellington have won 8. There have been 5 draws. And most recently, of course, Team Wellington lifting the Sterling Sports Premiership at QBE Stadium here in Auckland City itself. Long ball forward to begin with Zubi Karai. Now Clayton Lewis has released João Moreira. The first shot of the game, good save by Basile. Oh, and it's off the post already. Emiliano Tade with the goal at his mercy, and Basile will be wiping his brow with some degree of relief. That's a very positive start by the Navy Blues. Mario Beelan. What a start that would have been for Auckland. Scott Basile was beaten all ends up. And the post came to his rescue inside the first minute at Kiwatia Street. Lovely ball through. That's a fine shot by Moreira. The save was excellent. And as you can see there, Tade just slapping the ball against the upright.
We needed that.
Iwata. Team Wellington, who have suffered heartbreak in in the last two OFC Champions League finals. They were beaten on penalties in 2015 in Suva, and last season they really didn't get out of second gear. Auckland completely dominated the game to win 3-0, but there is a feeling that this is a very different Team Wellington side, one that's capable of not only playing directly, but making technical modifications to the way they execute their set pieces, and that certainly was the case in the Premiership final. Here's Villa. Knocking it into the far post. Awkward one for Iwata to deal with. Open up with a shot, and good save by Zubi Karai, low to his left. It was Andy Bevan who unleashed the shot. Lovely touch with the outside of the left foot, and he just made sure that he got it on target. Maybe sacrificed some power in doing so, and Zubi Karai gratefully clutching the ball to his chest. Kiwatia Street has been a difficult venue for Team Wellington over the years. If you look back at the head-to-head record, the last time they were able to pick up a victory here at Kiwatia Street was back in 2012. More of that shortly as Beelan sends that ball high into the air. Villa bringing it down. Team Wellington beat Auckland City in the second leg semi-final of the Premiership, the domestic Premiership, by 3-1. They took out the tie 4-1 on aggregate. And they were beaten in the final by Waitakere United. That was right at the start of the Matt Calcott era. And an early warning for Andy Bevan. Free kick taken by Auckland City. Here's Darren White. So a total of 2 victories on Kiwatia Street since 2004. The other one was in round 11 of the 2008-2009 season, which also finished 3-1 to Wellington. Leo Villa. Robertson. This is Justin Gully. And Bevan goes to ground. That's a clear free kick. Villa. Gully. The midfield battle will be very interesting today with Mario Barcia in there. He's more of a destroyer than a creator by reputation. Stevens, that's a good ball. And it was Tom Jackson who almost got on the end of it. Great run at the back post, and he sticks the thumbs up. Quality of the delivery was superb, and Jackson just ghosted away from Takuya Iwata and Angel Balanga, but couldn't quite get a definitive touch on the ball. This is the first time since 2014 that the OFC Champions League final has been contested over 2 legs. That was between Auckland City FC and Amical of Vanuatu. And Amical so very nearly picked up a victory here at Kiwatea Street. Tamati Williams saved a Colin Marshall penalty at a point where Amical were in front by 1-0. Here's Tade. Oh, chance for Tade. Good save. Oh, dear me. A big chance for Auckland, denied by Basilate. Tade wriggled clear of Justin Gully, unleashed the shot. Oh, look at that. That is absolutely breathtaking. You could see by the reaction of the ball boy behind the goal just how superb that was. He's been in terrific form this season, Scott Basilate. And Auckland City with 2 very good chances in the opening 5 or 6 minutes. As you'd expect, on their home ground, Auckland City making all the early running. Tade with the corner. Wound over. Touch taken by Darren White. It strikes Bill Robertson. There's a half-hearted appeal for handball. And you can see João Moreira and Bill Robertson debating the merits of that. There you can see, but Robertson had his arm tucked in, very tight to the body. Well, that's a very good ball. Possibilities if Stevens could keep it in, but he couldn't. Well, Nick Zambrano, who's playing up front for Team Wellington today, played his Northern League football with Central United on this pitch, and for this very same coach who is in charge of Team Wellington today, Jose Figueira, they won the Premier League under his control. Zambrano would surely fancy a goal today on a ground that holds some fine memories for him. And particularly for Team Wellington, given they've also brought up a considerable number of travelling supporters who have brought flags and banners and fine voice to the occasion. Here's Lewis. That's a good ball. Picked up by Tade. Now the early ball out to the left, searching for Moreira, but it's overhit. I spoke with Auckland City FC coach Ramon Tribulic before the game, and he said there is a bit of a knack to playing this final over 2 legs. And in terms of mentality of the players, it's a marathon rather than a sprint. You do tend to get adrenaline-infused performances in one-off finals, of course, and that can lead players to make curious decisions under pressure at the best of times. And certainly from an Auckland City perspective, Tribulic believes his team have learned some valuable lessons from the defeat to Team Wellington in the Sterling Sports Premiership Grand Final. Now there's a heavy challenge on Mario Beelan. Free kick has gone to Team Wellington. Beelan remains on the ground. Let's have a look at this. Justin Gully got clear. And it looks like Beelan's winded. And he may get a talking to from Nick Waldron when he recovers from that awkward challenge. Five forward for Team Wellington. Villa's free kick. Headed clear only as far as the edge of the box, but follow-up volley was a poor one. And there are the Auckland City FC supporters who throughout the season have occupied the top right of the main stand. Hoisted forward by Stevens. Belanga wins a header. He's playing his 150th game for Auckland City in all competitions today. The 29-year-old. Lewis. Now Moreira. What can he produce? Well, not much as the answer. He tried to overcook the manoeuvre. Team Wellington now with Jackson. Ja Moreira has 17 goals in the OC Champions League. He overtook Manel Exposito as the all-time leading goal scorer in the competition with 15 during the group stage. This is Villa. Lovely switch of play. Margits. Ball into the penalty area, dealt with by Auckland. Villa again. Oh, and that's given away cheaply, uncharacteristically by Leo Villa. This is Beelan. Lewis, Moreira, Lewis again. Well, it's been a curious season for Clayton Lewis. He's found himself in and out of the starting lineup at various stages of the season. He had a couple of tours with the All Whites and a trial in the UK at one point that saw him out of the picture for 3 or 4 weeks. Here's Tade. Chance for Tade, blocked by Robertson, and a free kick given against Auckland City. It may have been for a handball after a ricochet. Foul by White this time. Remarkably for Clayton Lewis, each time he's been left out, he invariably has scored in games and earned his way back into the starting lineup. It's a difficult balancing act for Ramon Trebulic to get it right. He's got a squad of high quality to choose from. And as you can see from the Team Wellington team sheet, looking at the bench with Nico Kerwin and Nathaniel Halmariam and Ben Harris today, they too have selection problems of a nature that most coaches would be jealous of, I'm sure. Opportunity for Auckland City to test Team Wellington from a set piece. Tade lines it up. And that's punched clear by Basilate. It was an awkward one for the keeper to contend with. He does well. Belanga. Lewis. Still going. This is a lovely interchange of play by Auckland City, trying to find a gap here of some sort, and Wellington clear their lines. Last season's OFC Champions League final was a very one-sided affair. It really went against what most people thought would take place at QBE Stadium. Team Wellington froze on the day, but that recent win in the Sterling Sports Premiership Grand Final will stand them in very good stead. It really is a trick to learn how to win grand finals, and they know all about that. There's a good save by Basilay. Danger not clear. Well, Team Wellington are just trying to soak up all of these Auckland City attacks. Scott Basilay keeping them scoreless at the moment. As I was saying before, Team Wellington now building up a very good body of experience in cup final football. It's a good build-up by Team Wellington through Stevens and Villa. Now Barcia joins in. And that's not great from Moretti. You usually expect a greater degree of prowess with ball at feet from Guillermo Moretti. He's had a very impressive season for Team Wellington. Well, the pressure of this game will not worry Team Wellington unduly as a result of the success of the last 4 or 5 seasons. They played in a lot more direct fashion under Matt Calcott, and Jose Figueira has just refined that approach somewhat. If you cast your mind back to that grand final at QBE a couple of weeks ago, their goals were scored from areas of the pitch that Auckland City... Oh, and there's a problem for Team Wellington. João Moreira against Basilay, and, well, it was a disaster from Team Wellington. And now they've got a big problem. Scott Basilay talking to his defenders. Moreira taken out, and it's a penalty kick. This has always been the risk for Team Wellington, playing as they do with 3 at the back. And João Moreira has an opportunity to add to his personal goal tally in this competition. He missed a penalty on this very same ground only 2 weeks ago at the other end of the pitch when he struck the post against AS Stefana. And the man that he's about to take on here has got a reputation as a penalty kick saver of the highest caliber. Moreira for Auckland City. Basilay for Team Wellington. Oh, and he's almost stopped it, but it's ended up in the back of the net. And Auckland City are 1-0 up. And Moreira, the hero of the moment. Scott Basilay got a glove to the ball, but he couldn't halt its progress. And Auckland City go 1-0 up, and you can see the relief on João Moreira's face. His heart must have stopped when that glove made contact with the ball, but the momentum and the physics took care of the rest. And a real test for Team Wellington now. Team Wellington just got completely opened up, not for the first time already in the first 20 minutes, it has to be said. Of course, you talk about gathering experience in cup finals and winning cup finals, but there's also the challenge of trying to pick oneself up again after a high of lifting a trophy. Players will tell you that it's easy to get yourself up for a one-off game, but keeping that momentum going as the games get bigger and bigger and the pressure mounts is another thing altogether. Here's the goal scorer, Moreira. Stevens snapping away at his heels. And Team Wellington need a response. They need to find that buzz that they had in the Sterling Sports Premiership final. They're a team that can score a lot of goals. If you look at the number of goals they've scored in all competitions this season, well over 80. But the concession of goals has also been a problem for them. Now they've got some defending to do here. Lewis is going to take this free kick. They've pushed 5 forward in blue shirts. Darren White. Justin Gully getting into some trouble. That's good defending by Barcia. And a free kick given Team Wellington's way. Barcia. Stevens. Jackson makes a run in behind the fullback. That's well played by Villa. This is a good moment for Team Wellington, perhaps. Margit into the box, and it's away by Daewoo Kim. Well, this is usually an area of the pitch that Tom Jackson fancies with the long throw. Let's see what Team Wellington can produce. In the Premiership final, they changed this manoeuvre up a lot. They tended to play a lot shorter. I wonder with the dimension of Kiwitea Street whether this will just be straight into the box. Indeed it is. Dealt with. Hoisted back into the danger area, away by Kim. Only as far as Stevens. Barcia. Oh, and that's a late challenge by Riera. It's a yellow card for Riera too. There was a headed clearance, and Stevens set up Barcia and over the top of the ball. That's a good decision by the referee, and a cynical challenge by Albert Riera. You don't normally associate that with a player like that. And there's another yellow card, I believe. No? It's the luminous yellow whistle I saw. I do beg your pardon. So a free kick for Team Wellington. This is a very handy position for Leo Villa. Zubi Karai has elected for 5 in the wall. There is Joel Stevens to the left of the ball. Andy Bevan on the edge of the wall. Lewis joins in. There's now 6, as you can see. Stevens. Oh, and not too far away. It wasn't as if there was a good free kick for a team to concede. It wasn't the greatest challenge by Riera to put his team in a spot of bother, but you can see there that there wasn't too much in that. As I said prior to the start of the match, there is a blustery wind blowing here from the club room's end, so anything that gets up to a height above the crossbar can be problematic for goalkeepers. Clearance only as far as Darren White. Riera, fast footwork from the veteran. Hoisted long for Moreira. It's a good first touch, but he's overcooked that. That's been a problem in his game all season, João Moreira. He does tend to favour the flashy over the functional at times. Here's Villa. Oh, that's a good ball by Leo Villa. And an excellent cross dealt with by Daewoo Kim. It was Joel Stevens whose delivery caused the problem. And here's an opportunity. You can see here, Darren White just got caught out by the quality of that pass. It was a fine decision by Joel Stevens to get the ball in early. And Daewoo Kim had to be at his level best to make sure that there was nobody following through for Team Wellington. Corner taken. And cleared at the near post. Iwata. Good spell of pressure this for Team Wellington. Margaret's cross. Fascinating first 26 minutes or so in this game. Auckland City leading Team Wellington by 1-0. João Moreira from the penalty spot. There's the difference between the teams so far. Kim. Oh, he's given that one away. That's a poor ball. Leo Villa picks it up now. Mario Barcia. Tade back defending. Riera had to try and get a hurry on. He was about a yard too slow to get there, but Team Wellington now have the ball. Stevens. Barcia. Leo Villa. Team Wellington showing the utmost patience. Robertson. Well, Gully just with a poor touch, and it's back with City. Fine pass by Riera. Auckland City have 2 forward in the penalty box. Lewis. Oh, and it's a chance for Moreira. 2-0. And João Moreira has doubled Auckland City FC's lead. The Auckland City supporters celebrate as well they might. It was a goal hatched by Albert Riera and Clayton Lewis. And Moreira applies the finishing touch, and Team Wellington are in big trouble already. Well, the first half hour, Team Wellington have been very, very flat. You have to say, and it's reflected in this scoreline. A defensive mistake that led to the first goal, and then a piece of quality from Albert Riera, Clayton Lewis, and João Moreira, who's in fine form. He scored 3 hat-tricks in the OC Champions League, and now he stands on the verge of a 4th. It's still early days in the tie, of course. An hour to go here at Kiwatea Street and 90 minutes at David Farrington Park. There's a lot of football to be played. But I dare say that Jose Figueira will be concerned by what he's seeing. And the temptation must be to ask himself just at what point he chooses to reach for Ben Harris. The next goal is so important now. Team Wellington will be hoping that it's them that grab it, of course. But they can ill afford to lose a third. Oh, and Bill Robertson getting into trouble there. He got pressed aggressively by Mario Beelan. Stevens. He's been one of the standout players for the Capital men this season.
what's that? On the video. We'll ask him for the replays later.
Come on! Go closer!
Gully. Villa. And Team Wellington have an incredible spirit within their group, and we all saw that in the semi-finals of the Sterling Sports Premiership, that incredible 6-all draw that was decided on penalty kicks. So no situation should be perceived as hopelessly beyond their reach. They certainly showed that day that they were capable of great feats of resilience and courage. And from Auckland City's perspective, they're going to have to be careful that they don't take the foot off the pedal here and allow Team Wellington back into the game, because if you look across the course of the season, particularly domestic football, Auckland have struggled to convert the number of chances that they get in games into goals. There are at least 10 matches I can recall where Auckland City have won games by the odd goal and 3 here and there. They had quite a few matches where they won games 1-0, which is certainly a change from what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years, where they've dominated league matches comfortably. But this season they've at times just failed to put opponents away, and that is something that Team Wellington should cling to. But Team Wellington, the problem they've got now, of course, is that they can ill afford to make another mistake and have the match just completely slip away from them and put themselves in a position at David Farrington Park where they have to come out with all guns blazing and leave gaps across the pitch that Auckland City can exploit to their own ends. Still, they'll have faith in Tom Jackson. He's a goal-getter extraordinaire, and they'll need him today to come up with something. "34 minutes of the OFC Champions League final first leg. Auckland City FC lead Team Wellington 2-0. 2 goals for João Moreira. Kim's header. Here's Darren White, playing some of his best football in Auckland City colours in recent times. He's improved his fitness levels and lost a bit of weight and improved his mobility as a result of that. And part of that, of course, has been the extraordinary number of games that Auckland City have had to play this season. 41 matches over the course of the campaign, stretching back to September. without doubt, that's the most number of games played by New Zealand National League club or franchise that I can certainly recall in the modern era. And perhaps also an indicator of some of the performances with that extraordinary combustion that took place in the defeat to Waitakere United under Chris Milicic. Certainly had a few pundits scratching their heads. Here's a chance for Lewis to cross to the far post. All hands to the pump for Team Wellington. Here's Howison. Now Tade. Zibi Karai surveying his options. One by Moreira. Lewis. Here's Robertson. Trying to find Tom Jackson. It was Riera who was the obstacle between the skipper and the leading goal scorer for Team Wellington. They just struggled a little bit, but going from middle to front today, Jose Figueira's team. Auckland City have been more compact without the ball and trying to block those passing channels, and they've been content for Team Wellington to hoist the ball into the box from wide areas, deep wide areas. Marko Dordovic, of course, is missing. He was injured in the semi-final win over Tafana, so Daewit Kim has stepped in, and while Kim has got a reputation for scoring goals from attacking set plays, he's perhaps not so adept at the aerial side of his defensive game, something that Team Wellington have exploited in the past in the Sterling Sports Premiership Grand Final last year, when Team Wellington won 4-2 in extra time. Howison. Iwata. Well, there's just a little bit of flatness about Team Wellington. The body language since going 2-0 down has just dropped off somewhat. I suspect they're trying to not rush or push themselves in this tie, acknowledging that it's over 2 legs. And it's not what you would call a helter-skelter performance. They're trying to be very careful about what they're doing, but with this 2-goal deficit, it does make things awkward for them. Touched by Tade. Moretti. Barcia. And a free kick going Auckland's way. Moreira down. There was the aerial challenge, and and straight through the back of Moreira. That's a painful one. Very difficult to pick up at first glance, but in the replay, there's a fairly obvious lash out by Guillermo Moretti. Just under 5 minutes to go to the break. Auckland City FC in full control in the OFC Champions League final first leg. And a happy Auckland City FC supporters group, understandably so. So Auckland City temporarily down to 10 while Moreira gets treatment from physio. Away by Robertson, helped on by Bevan. That's a good turn by Zambrano. Interesting ball. And straight into the gloves of Aniot Zubi-Kurai, who's played on a bigger stage than this in Spanish football. Had 7 years with Real Sociedad, and if you read the New Zealand Herald this morning, you would have seen an article by Michael Burgess on Zubi-Kurai's experiences in La Liga, playing against the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid. He's had a pretty solid season, of course, as you'd expect, with Auckland City, given his background. He did find himself out of professional football after having his contract wind down. And he's been a welcome addition to the Auckland City FC setup, but as I've noted in previous broadcasts, standard of goalkeeper in the league across the board has been very, very high. Scott Bazile, an exceptional exponent of that fact. Here's Stevens trying to find a way through. But you can just see how close Auckland City are getting to their opponents, in stark contrast to the game we saw between these two clubs about 4 weeks ago. Long ball forward, brought down by Moreira. He was looking for some help from Lewis. Team Wellington would dearly love to pull one back just before the half-time break. They've looked good in possession, you have to say. They've not done anything too wrong in that regard. But it's just in that final third, penetrating that Auckland City FC defence has proven tricky. Villa, you can see there's another example. Moreira back there defending. Lewis. Well, that's a clever ball by Lewis. Howison. And now a chance. Auckland City on the counter-attack. Tade against Robertson. Oh, and the cutback was useful. And maybe a chance. Howison blocked. Cam Howison, who started the season with Team Wellington,
Come on, City, keep it going.
with an opportunity. It was a lovely cutback by Emiliano Tade, and Howison got forward, just nipped in front of the defender to try and fashion himself an opportunity, and he did so. But it's still with his teammates. It's a poor ball by Beelan, but it's broken kindly to Awata. Still going, Awata. Lewis in the penalty area. Tade and Moreira join him. Shot blocked. Howson again. Swings the ball wide. Here's Darren White. Into the far post, dealt with by Moretti. Of the two teams, Auckland City have just looked the more convincing, transitioning into that top third. 2 minutes of additional time, as you can see, to be played, minimum at the end of the first half. Riera. Mario Beelan. White. Oh, that's not a great cross. It's cut out by Robertson, but he's had his pocket picked by Tade. Well, Auckland City turning on the showboating with a back heel, and they look as though they're enjoying themselves as well. And well, they might with this 2-goal cushion.
Well done.
The space for Jackson to move into. There's a ball into the box. It's away by Belanga and away by Beelan. Tade. Moreira. It's always a question for any team playing against Auckland is at what point do you press aggressively, acknowledging that their possession-based game is one that's likely to lead to a lot of fatigue if you're going to try and press them all over the park all of the time. Here's Stevens, Andy Bevan. Jackson pulls away from his marker. The ball into the box was blocked. Well, there it is, half-time in the OFC Champions League final, first leg, and it's advantage to Auckland City FC. They lead by 2-0, courtesy of Portuguese striker João Moreira. One of those was from the penalty spot. The other came from a fine finish from a Clayton Lewis cross. And so at half-time, it's the defending champions who find themselves in front. Welcome back to Kiwitea Street, half-time in the OFC Champions League final between Auckland City FC and Team Wellington. It's Auckland who lead by 2-0, courtesy of strikes by João Moreira. Team Wellington have a lot of work ahead of them if they're to get back into this game and this tie. Let's take a look at the highlights of the first half. First chance fell to Auckland City straight away. Great save by Scott Basile from João Moreira's shot. Tade hit the post. Andy Bevan with Team Wellington's best opportunity of the game. Their performance from open play was intriguing at times. That was a lovely cross by Joel Stevens that just missed Tom Jackson. But Team Wellington struggled to deal with the movement, and that save by Scott Basile was absolutely superb. It could have been 1-0 then. Darren White then drew another good save from Basile with that right hand, but then a mistake at the back led to João Moreira going one-on-one with Basile. The keeper took the striker out. It was a clear-cut penalty, and Basile nearly atoned for the foul. He got a glove on it, but couldn't stop the ball from ending up in the back of the net. Joel Stevens went close with that free kick after Albert Riera had fouled Mario Barcia. And then another half chance for Team Wellington from that Stevens cross. But Auckland City FC doubled their lead. Riera played Clayton Lewis into space, who found Moreira, and the finish from close range was absolutely excellent. Bill Robertson just missing out again against Moreira. And as you can see, Auckland City looking very comfortable at 2-0. These two teams met in the OFC Champions League final last season. It was a very different match to the one that we're seeing today. And let's check out just how that played. Well, it was a game that Auckland City took by the scruff of the neck in the opening minutes. Clayton Lewis again was at the heart of most of Auckland City's best creative activity, as was that man there, Mia Lika-Lafa. And Team Wellington, who had beaten Auckland City 4-2 on the same pitch just weeks before, were struggling to get into the game at all. Alex Fenarides was sent off for that foul on Takuya Watu. There was no doubt about that. And if you recall from the statistics, Auckland City had about 75% of the possession in that game. And Team Wellington were put to the sword. Lea Lafa helped himself to a goal. And again, Team Wellington find themselves trailing 2-0 here today. And it was Auckland City who won and qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup in Japan 2016. And Auckland City champions for the 6th year in a row, the 8th time overall, title winners in 2006, 2009, and every year since 2011. So let's take a look at the head-to-head record between these two teams this season. Way back in October, Auckland beat Team Wellington on Kiwatia Street 4-0 in the regular season clash. Then in the first game of 2017 at David Farrington Park, Auckland again won by 3-1. That also doubled as the Charity Cup, which Auckland won for the second time off their capital rivals. And then most recently, Team Wellington defeated Auckland City FC 2-1 in the Sterling Sports Premiership final. Part of FIFA's countdown to the Tournament of Champions in Russia in June, Brazil football legend Gilberto Silva visited New Zealand for the first time in March with a FIFA Confederations Cup trophy. All Whites legend Ivan Visilic, who played in the 2009 FIFA Confederations Cup in South Africa, accompanied Silva on the 3 days of his trophy visit. Gilberto Silva's visit to Auckland came as the All Whites qualified for their 3rd FIFA Confederations Cup after winning the OFC Nations Cup in Papua New Guinea last June.
It's nice to be here in New Zealand for the first time, and for the first time bring the trophy of Federations Cup here. It's nice because I hope it inspires the team as they are going to play the competition. And being invited by FIFA to be, one of the ambassadors, it's amazing. It's a kind of opportunity for me as well to have the opportunity again to see the trophy very close and touch it after the last time I did it. And yes, it's been amazing. Today we start our tour here, speaking to people, showing out the trophy, speaking about the competition. It's amazing. For the players who are going to play this competition, hope they enjoy as much as I did on my time, and take it very serious. The competition is very important for them to play in, because you play against the champions, the team that play this kind of competition because they achieved something, in the past, to be there, to deserve to be there. And for me, it was great. In 2 opportunities I played the competition. Brazil won it, and it's great when you have this kind of opportunity with your country, as special for us in Brazil. Everyone expects victory from us. Well, for the Chilean players, if they want to become successful, one thing they must have in mind, they will have to work very hard. There's nothing easy in life. In football, it's the same. They must work hard, and forget about the weekends with family, and take it very serious and focus on it. Their attitude will tell, if you go far or not. If they have a great attitude and work hard and enjoy as much as I did, the chance is there. This is not guaranteed that you are going to be successful, but of course you have more chance if you concentrate on your game, train hard and work hard for it. This is something I could say to them.
Don't forget, next week we've got the 2nd leg of the OFC Champions League final coming to you from David Farrington Park. It's Team Wellington at home to Auckland City FC. 1 o'clock kickoff. Make sure that you join us for that one. Welcome back, everyone. We're just moments away from the start of the second half of the OC Champions League final first leg. And Team Wellington facing a very difficult second half task. They trail by 2-0. And they'll be very conscious about not conceding a third. That could well make the task at David Farrington Park just even more difficult than it is already. Auckland City FC will be more than satisfied, but the issue that they've got will be kicking on from here and really putting the game and the tie beyond the reach of Team Wellington. They have really struggled to do that to teams in the domestic competition. If you look back across their performance over the last couple of seasons, they've only ever lost one match in the regular season. And this season in the domestic championship, they were beaten 4 times. And there was a real sense among teams in New Zealand that games with Auckland City were opportunities to get very close to them and to really test them and perhaps pinch games. 2 performances in particular stand out, that of Hawke's Bay United at Blue Water Stadium in Napier, where they beat Auckland by 2-1. Waitakere United's 4-0 thrashing of Auckland at Truss Arena was another example, and of course most recently the Sterling Sports Premiership Grand Final itself. And I'm sure that Auckland City will be mindful of that possibility, because Team Wellington can score first in the second half. If they can grab a goal here, it will just change the body language, the enthusiasm will return, the confidence will be once again restored. They're in desperate need of something along those lines. Andy Bevan, who had a pretty quiet first half, out with that 1 shot on goal. Free kick early for Team Wellington, just 30 seconds into the start of the second half. Be interesting to see what they can produce from this Leo Villa free kick. Wound into the penalty spot, away by Dewitt Kim, away by Tade. Robertson has stayed forward. Oh, that's a nice touch. Moreira just doesn't have the pace to catch up with it, but that might not matter. Here's Clayton Lewis. Oh, and just wide of the post. Very reminiscent of an opportunity that he had in the final last year. Wonderful presence of mind. He got clear of the defence and tried to stick it between goalkeeper and post. The left hand upright and narrowly wide. Helped on by Jackson, it's won by Belanga. Lewis against Gully. They're trying to provide some assistance here, but he's been left behind. The cut back, just in behind Moreira. That was an awkward one for Moreira to deal with. It wasn't the greatest of cutbacks, in truth. But Auckland City just showing that they can exploit some of the spaces on the outside of the 2 flanking centre halves as this game progresses. Tade now. Howison. Riera arrives. Garcia for Villa, working the ball to the left. Leo Villa's craft and distribution is going to be key in the second half if Team Wellington are to crack open this navy blue wall. Stevens. Well, they've let him go a long way. And it's a poor shot to round off the move. I'm just curious as to whether we're going to see Ben Harris into the fray. That would really change things for Team Wellington in terms of the threat that they offer. Aerially, Ben Harris among the best in the region, and we're having a bit of a problem with the footballs. Normal service resumed. We can get on with things. Well, Auckland City have been far more aggressive today as well. They've pressed from back to front, particularly the front three. They've sought to press the Team Wellington back three every opportunity they get. And we've seen a lot less of Auckland City playing out through the centre halves as we're used to. It's certainly a change-up in approach that has helped them considerably. And you can see to the left of Justin Gully, New Zealand coach Anthony Hudson, who's got the FIFA Confederations Cup to look forward to in Russia in June. Of course, he'll have his eye on Clayton Lewis, who's been a big part of the all-white setup. Stevens. Well, there's a player down here for Team Wellington. It looks like it's Tom Jackson. Taking a whack to the back of the head by the look of it. And he's back on his feet. Well, 2-1 makes this a very, very different tie. If Team Wellington can get on the score sheet, they haven't had too many chances. They've been strangled out of the game in an attacking sense. Here's Awata joining in with a Tade attack. There's a cross for Moreira. Yeah, tries to swing it away. Jackson against Belanga. Moretti. Tade pressing Stevens. Howison out to the ball too. Patient build-up from the Wellingtonians. Margits for Moretti. Barcia. Moretti tried to find Jackson with the pass through the channels, cut out by Belanga. A bit more of a bounce in the step of Team Wellington in the first 7 minutes of the second half. It's a good run forward. Jackson loses out to Belanga again. It's a fascinating duel between these two. Barcia. Now Stevens. Decent position for Stevens if he can get the ball into the box. Blocked by Awata, still with Stevens. Over it goes. And away. Team Wellington starting to apply some pressure on Auckland. Andy Bevan. It's a very well-driven ball into the front line. It was Barcia who found himself forward. So Team Wellington starting to get more of their midfielders involved in that final line, just to try and overload that Auckland City defence that's held fast so far. Bill Robertson, Leo Villa, Justin Gully's moved into a forward position just over halfway. Can't find Jackson, away by Riera. Now Moreira. Riera picks the ball up again. Tade wide against Moretti. He's cut in on his right, problem for Team Wellington. Great save by Scott Bazile. Sheer class from the Team Wellington goalkeeper. Tade got the better of Moretti. Robertson didn't know whether to stay or go and meet the challenge, but Scott Bazile certainly did. That was a wonderful save. It's a corner for Auckland City. Wound in short, looking for Darren White, who was making the run to the near post. And Team Wellington survived. That was a wonderful passage of play, both the shot and the save. Tade scored from a very similar situation in the grand final of the Sterling Sports Premiership. And he worked that space very well to create the opportunity. But Scott Bazile, once again, showing his class. Well, Tom Jackson's really in the wars today. He's certainly got torrid time from Angel Belanga, and Mario Beelan added to the situation with that last challenge. Riera. This is Cam Howson for Auckland City. Tade Iwata to his left. Howson dropping in to supply an out ball. Well, he's overdone it there with Barcia snapping away at his heels. Still going. Andy Bevan with the defending. Now Iwata again. Villa surveying his options. Kim robs Bevan of the ball. And there's a stoppage here. It's Iwata who is the injured player. He was fully committed to that challenge with Mario Barcia. .50-50 challenge. It was there to be won, and I think it was more the way that Iwata went into challenge. He turned his knee side on to the ball as Barcia drove his foot through it. And you can see there the concern Barcia has for Iwata. It was a firm but fair challenge. There's a lot of power thrust through by Mario Barcia going for that ball, and let's have another look at it. It was dropped off by Stevens. And there you can see the impact, and Iwata looks as though he's going to be okay to continue. There's some investigation and discussion going on in the Auckland City FC technical area. And indeed, Takuya Iwata is back on the field of play, which is good news for Auckland and for his teammates. Tade, here's Iwata. Howson drops into the pocket to provide support. Space here for Beelan, shot ambitious, the defending solid. Lewis. White for Beelan. Well, Auckland City have been a lot stronger in defence than they were in either of the last two Stirling Sports Premiership Grand Finals, but they're on the attack here. Tade trying to wriggle through. It breaks for Moreira. Lewis, oh, and the first touch let Lewis down there. Second bite of the chance available. White. Well, some people will tell you that Auckland City have been just a wee bit too predictable this season, and that has allowed teams to get a lot closer to them. Certainly today's been a performance where they've changed their approach. They've been very aggressive in defence. They've been their normal selves in terms of the amount of possession, but they've been more direct. I think that's been the key difference today. Tade for Moreira. Tade again. Rolls the ball with the top of his foot, but he's overdone it. Good challenge by Belanga. Picked up by Bevan. We've had 1 hour at Kiwitea Street. Auckland City FC 2, Team Wellington 0. It would be a big mistake, I think, for Auckland to try and sit on a 2-0 advantage. Team Wellington showed against AS Magenta just what they're capable of at home. Sticking 7 past a team they drew 2-2 with in Numia, and of course they managed to get 6 against Waitakere at the same venue. So substitution, Nick Zambrano comes off, and it's Ben Harris. And Team Wellington really need him now. One by Moreira. Robertson. Long ball forward, picked off by Albert Riera. Barcia. Villa. Team Wellington have been very patient in possession of the ball in the middle third. They haven't looked to go long at every opportunity. Moreira hoists it wide to Lewis. Beelan with some support for Clayton Lewis. Switches play to the other side. Tade Iwata speeding up on the left. Tade. That's not a bad ball. Lewis, can he keep it in? Not sure that he can. No, he can't. In fact, that was Darren White on the overlap. Stevens. Belanga. Just a bit more space for both midfields to operate in. Game getting a lot more stretched. It was definitely a more compact affair at QBE Stadium. Now Howson pressing Barcia. Basile. Team Wellington picking up the bits and pieces from that long ball. Bevan picks out Stevens. Decent ball in, and Zubi Karai had to be very mindful. Tom Jackson lost the flight of the ball in the sun by the look of it. And Auckland have been fairly content to allow Team Wellington to play balls into the penalty area from deep wide positions where they're less dangerous. And they've been more aggressive aerially too in defending those balls. And
Typical Harris.
Well, here's a problem. Belanga and Ben Harris getting into a bit of a tangle. Harris has only been on the pitch for a couple of minutes. Nick Waldron coming over to investigate. Everything appears to be in order. Ben Harris is telling his teammates, come on, we need to pick this up. And the game just going through a bit of a lull here. This could work to Team Wellington's favour, but they've given the ball away here. Darren White has run a good 30 or so, 30, 40 metres with the ball. Stays forward as well. Beelan tries to bring Awata into the game. Howison, Awata. And Barcia is saying, no, that's no foul, but I think he just went over the top of the ball in an attempt to win it. And there's a substitution coming up for Auckland City. It's Emiliano Tade, surprisingly enough, who's coming off. And Ryan De Vries, who went off injured in the Sterling Sports Premiership Grand Final and has been receiving treatment for a lower back injury, who comes on. He's had a pretty quiet season by his normal standards. The goals haven't come as freely as they have in the past, but he's still a very interesting option to bring on at this juncture of this tie. Wata, here's De Vries, cross into the penalty area, but offside flag has gone up. Barcia. Moretti for his skipper, Bill Robertson. Justin Gully looking for Barcia or Leo Villa. He's forced to bring the ball forward. Barcia lets the ball run. Taken quickly. Halfway through the second half, Auckland City FC still lead 2-0, courtesy of a brace by João Moreira in the first half. And a corner. Is this the moment for Team Wellington? Can Ben Harris make a difference? Bill Robertson's in there. He's going to be a danger as well. Villa hoists it in. Oh, and it's not cleared at the first time of asking. That was very casually dealt with, and it almost led to a goal-scoring opportunity for Team Wellington. They'll like the way that shaped up. Jose Figueira's team. Long ball hoisted forward with Belanga to deal with it. Well, if I look back across the OFC Champions League finals that have been played here at Kiwatea Street, it's finished Auckland City FC 2, Koloale 2. That was in 09. In 2012, Auckland beat Tafana 2-1 in the first leg. And of course, in 2014, they beat Amical 3-2. So it's always been close here, with the exception of Auckland City beating Amical 4-1. That was in 2011. So typically, these games are very tight, regardless of the number of times that Auckland City have gone on to actually win the tournament itself. The home leg is always presented as something of a complex task for the home side to negotiate. And Team Wellington will be cognizant of that, I would imagine. They certainly haven't let the concession of the 2 goals get to them unduly, and that's really important to note. Here's Margits, ball into the box and away by David Kim.
Too deep.
Stevens against De Vries. Gully.
Come on, City! Put pressure on!
The possession stats would make for interesting reading, I'm sure. Team Wellington have had plenty of the ball in the second half without creating too many clear-cut opportunities. That's been the overall issue for them throughout the game. Now De Vries, that was a poor free kick to concede, really. It didn't look as though there was any immediate danger, and it's another chance for Leo Villa to exercise his abilities from a dead ball situation. All it needs is one perfectly struck free kick for Team Wellington to get back into it. Jackson hoists the ball high into the penalty area. Beelan was the last player to get a touch on it, and it was an awkward one for Zubi Karai to deal with through a sea of bodies. And De Vries getting forward, and he's round Basile. That was a surreal moment of goalkeeping by a player that has otherwise been exceptional throughout. He came off his line to concede a penalty in the first half, and he just seemed to amble out here. It was a long ball by Zubi Karai. Look at this. He was neither here nor there in the end, and thankfully for him, Leo Villa was providing some type of cover to prevent a disaster. Darren White with the corner. De Vries in the 6-yard box. It's whipped in, but it's unable to beat the first man. Riera for White again, who gets a second chance to launch the ball into the penalty area. It was hit more in hope than expectation by the look of that. Moretti, Barcia. Here's Villa again. Picks out Andy Bevan and dealt with by Belanga. That was a ball intended for Tom Jackson. Moreira. Wata. Barcia with the cheeky back heel. Now, Leo Villa really is the metronome that makes Team Wellington tick. But again, this is the problem. That's the problem for Team Wellington. It's just trying to get that ball from middle to front has proven difficult. Auckland's defensive organisation has been a lot more disciplined in this match than it has been against Team Wellington in recent games. That it's been a feature of today. And there's another example of a ball intended for Joel Stevens, just picked off gratefully by Auckland. And they haven't played out as they have all season. That's been a real surprise in many ways. White, he's beyond Gully, still going. Howson, the cutback, and Moreira, and he's helped it on to Lewis. Good save, a crucial stop again by Scott Basile. He's worth his weight in gold to Team Wellington. I tell you what, he's made 3 or 4 saves here today that could still make the difference between lifting the OC Champions League trophy or not. Absolutely superb stuff from a goalkeeper who's right at the top of his game. Justin Gully tried to take Darren White out of the play. White found Moreira. Look at this, unselfishly playing it into Clayton Lewis, and Basile's vision must have been partially blocked by Bill Robertson, yet he still managed to put a solid save in, loaded with conviction and confidence. If Team Wellington do go on to turn this tie around and lift the title, they'll certainly look at 3 or 4 of the moments that Scott Basile saved them today, and point to them and suggest that they could have been the turning point. Here's Bevan. Oh, that's lovely from Andy Bevan. Sells Darren White out twice, and the shot wide by Barcia. That was a great opportunity for Team Wellington. Lovely creative move by Andy Bevan. There's the cross, and look how deep set Auckland City were. And Barcia just couldn't get the shot on target to test the goalkeeper. Albert Riera, who hasn't had usual job to do today. He's more often been the player who goes and picks the ball up off the Auckland City FC centre halves, but the ball has sailed over his head for the most part today. It's not often you say that, and what value he has added has come in picking up the bits and pieces, contesting second phase ball for the most part. Here's De Vries. João Moreira. Oh, and still going Moreira, and he throws himself to the ground, and it's a penalty. Well, Guillermo Moretti, hands in the air, and it's a spot kick for Auckland and a yellow card. He shaped to shoot, and he went by Moretti, and I think Moretti knows in his heart of hearts that it was going to be a penalty kick, and judging by the body language shown by Team Wellington, I think that given there's been no major protest from them to referee Nick Waldron, that they've been caught on the hop. Now, he scored from the penalty spot in the first half at the other end of the pitch. He's taking a penalty at the end of the pitch where he missed one in the semi-final against AS Tefana. And I think the most vital spot kick of the season for João Moreira. Scott Basile got a glove on the first one. Moreira went low to Basile's left. Will he go the same side? We shall see. Moreira, part 2. Versus Scott Basile. Oh, and he stops it. Great save by Scott Basile yet again. And for the second home game in a row, João Moreira has failed to convert a penalty kick. Look at that save. He's just in absolutely unbelievable form. Team Wellington stopper. And despite the scoreline, to have a game like this in front of the national team coach can Surely do. His long-term prospects in the sport, no harm at all. Here's Awata. How important will that save be within the context of the two legs? We've yet to discover, but drama at Kiwatia Street. That could have put the tie a bit beyond Team Wellington. They remain firmly in the fixture. Ben Harris winds the ball in, and it's just kept out by Zubi Karai. It was a testing cross come shot from the substitute Harris. And if Team Wellington can pinch a goal here, I tell you what, there'll be a few recriminations over penalty kicks, I'm sure, in the future for Auckland. Here's Jackson Stroh. Gully. Barcia. Harris. Well, Team Wellington still very much in the game. Can they pick off a goal? Long range shot, and that's not going to trouble Zubi Karai. Well, Scott Basile has had such a wonderful afternoon. Look at that. It was nice and close to him. It was hit with plenty of power, but you still have to be able to save it, and that he did. That was quite something on an afternoon where he's distinguished himself as one of the best practitioners in the art of goalkeeping in the country at the present time. And once again, an example of Auckland City this season just being unable to put an opponent away, albeit the stakes are exceptionally high, and there is a place at the FIFA Club World Cup at stake. And you can expect the ultimate resistance from your opponents, but this has been the story of most of the campaign for Auckland. Now there's a change for Team Wellington being made here. Nathaniel Halmariam has come on for Josh Margits. There was a substitution earlier too for Auckland City. Fabrizio Tavano is on. And I just wonder if Mario Beelan's a player who has come off. We'll try and find out for you as soon as we can. Howison. Free kick for Team Wellington. They've taken it quickly. Bevan running direct. Howison in pursuit. Here's Harris. Team Wellington trailing 2-0. It could have been 3 or 4 today, but for Scott Basile. Mario Barcia. Finds Stevens, who's been quiet for the last 5 or 10 minutes. He's trying to spark something together for Team Wellington. Kim, that was intended for Moreira. It was cut out by Barcia. Takuya White has been caught late by Ben Harris. We'll have to see if we can get a replay of that. Now, there's some discussion going on here. Nick Waldron is talking to Harris. There's a card. Is it a card? I can't tell. That whistle's very deceiving. There was a card pulled out of the pocket. So here you can see Iwata shaping to send the ball clear. Very difficult to tell whether or not there was contact. It's implied, but one doesn't want to venture into awkward territory by saying anything definitive given that angle. Oh, you can see Ben Harrison, Takuya Iwata continuing the debate about the merits of Nick Waldron's decision there. It's resulted in a free kick in any case. Well, there's another issue for Nick Waldron to deal with. There's a few tense words perhaps being exchanged. Understandable at this juncture of the match. Hail Mariam, who's enjoyed some very successful days for the Wellington Phoenix on this very same pitch. Wellington Phoenix reserves, as they were known a couple of seasons ago, beat Auckland City here 3-1, and Hail Mariam was absolutely electric. He can certainly go up in the estimations of supporters of Team Wellington if he can fashion something for them here. If Team Wellington can pick a goal off, it really sets up an amazing game at David Farrington Park next week. Here's Tavano. De Vries against Moretti. Still going. Tavano. De Vries can't get the better of Bill Robertson, who mops up expertly. Howson. Tavano for Riera. Now Riera again. Oh, this is a good move. Darren White staying forward. He's found a gap just inside midfield, and Lewis picking out Tavano. Tavano takes the ball to the corner. Lewis whips the ball into the pocket that Takuya Iwata was looking to get forward and exploit. That's been a feature of Auckland City's play. They have tended to switch flanks with the ball as often as they possibly could to try and stretch Team Wellington. It's been not a completely different approach by Auckland today, but it's certainly been noteworthy in its differences, particularly in possession of the ball. It's not something we've seen too often over the last 6 or 7 years under Ramon Trebuliec. And I just wonder what the approach will be next week. It's all to be determined, of course. It's been a fascinating tussle that really has belonged to two players. João Moreira of Auckland, who's scored 2 and been denied a hat-trick, and Scott Bazillet, who, for mine, has turned in one of the best goalkeeping performances in the OFC Champions League that I can remember. Not too often effusive in praise of players needlessly, but it must be said that without Scott Bazillet today, Auckland City may have scored 3 or 4, at least 3. And Bazillet can really be proud of the performance. I know that being the competitor he is, he'll not be happy about losing the game, which it looks as though Team Wellington will do, but they find themselves still within touching distance of the OC Champions League trophy, and oh, a chance! 3-0! Ryan de Vries has picked off goal number 3 in the 89th minute, and just as the commentator's curse falls, and Ryan de Vries pounces to slot the ball past Basile, and Auckland City sitting very comfortably. And that man there, who's not had his problems to seek in terms of scoring goals this season, has scored a very, very important goal for his team today. And relief, I'm sure, felt by João Moreira, who saw his penalty saved by Basile earlier. And for the 3rd time this season, Team Wellington have conceded 3 goals to Auckland City. And next week, they have to at least score 3 themselves, which, by the way, I believe they're capable of, but goodness me, it's going to be an uphill battle for them now. They just haven't created enough today. Auckland City have been too difficult a block to break down. Hail Mariam. That's an interesting ball in, and it's over the top from Harris. Well, there's going to be additional time of 5 minutes minimum to be added on at the end of this one. And I think for Team Wellington, it's going to be a case of let's not concede another. Otherwise, I think that could be mission impossible at David Farrington next week. They have got this extraordinary goal aggregate for the season, but is that going to be enough? Now, a substitution is being made here by Auckland City. I think it's Reed Drake, who's stripped and ready for action, the number 7. And João Moreira, 2-goal hero, could have been a hat-trick, is the man who's replaced. De Vries almost got the better of Moretti, and thankfully for Team Wellington, it's a goal kick. That's well won by Daewoo Kim. That's a very powerful header. Fabrizio Tavano scoops up the ball. It's forward by Robertson, away by Kim again. Well, Team Wellington's wait for a victory at Kiwitea Street will have to wait for another season, it looks. It's been 5 years since that 3-1 win in the semi-final second leg of the Premiership, domestic Premiership. And they really haven't looked like getting anywhere near Auckland today. They've tried to play the game the right way. They've tried to move Auckland City around, but that breeze block of a defence has just held firm, and they've dealt with everything that's been thrown at them in terms of final balls into the penalty area. And you can't always say that about Auckland City this season. That hasn't always been the case, but as they've needed to, they've certainly delivered in that respect today. De Vries now Tavano. It's well won by Stevens. Trying to get away from Howison. Now Stevens in frustration, running into the back of Cam Howison, but that happened right in front of Nick Waldron. Just a couple of minutes to go in the first leg of the OC Champions League final for 2017. Auckland City 3, Team Wellington 0. Goals for João Moreira and the substitute Ryan De Vries. Basile, and he's hoisted it away, but not after he also slips. So this game meandering to a close, and Auckland City have got themselves into a winning position, a very strong position to take to Wellington next week. It's been a fine performance. Overall, they've really been troubled at the back, and they've created plenty of chances. And all through a modification of the way they've approached the game. And when it's really mattered, the quality and commitment have been to the fore. And Ramon Treviliec will be the first to say that this game, this tie, is far from decided, with 90 minutes to play in the capital next week. And a last chance for Team Wellington to pick something off. They need something special. If they can grab a goal here, they grab a foothold back in the tie. Will it be a worked move? Will it be a direct shot on goal? Zubi Karai has got 5 in the wall. Andy Bevan has joined that wall. There is a shot deflected, and it's a corner. Team Wellington will want to get this taken as quickly as they possibly can. They need to throw bodies forward into the box. They need to get something from this, I think. It would send a rallying cry to not only themselves as a team, but their supporters for next week. Corner dealt with. There's still numbers forward for Wellington. Whip the ball in. That's a very fine ball. That's the type of ball they scored from in the final a couple of weeks ago, but Auckland City resolute. And there it is. The first leg of the OFC Champions League final is won by Auckland City FC, 3-0. 2 for João Moreira, 1 for Ryan De Vries. And it's a happy Auckland City FC supporters group at the end of 90 minutes that their team dominated more or less from start to finish. Scott Basile was an outstanding performer for Team Wellington, and there's still more of this narrative to be written next week. But there is now a degree of comfort about the task in front of the defending champions as they chase 7 in a row. A difficult day at the office for Team Wellington, but they could have disappeared completely. More to come after the break. Auckland City FC have got themselves into a fantastic position to win their 7th consecutive OC Champions League title after beating Team Wellington here today by 3-0. They've been just too good on the day for Team Wellington, and the second half, this wonderful save by Scott Basile was about the highlight reel for Team Wellington. But Auckland City really turned on the quality today. They could have won by a lot more were it not for the heroics of their goalkeeper. And they created only a sparing amount of chances. That was one of the best of them from Mario Barcia. And João Moreira went down to the penalty area after a foul by Guillermo Moretti. But once again, Basile keeping Team Wellington within touching distance of Auckland City FC. Unfortunately for Basile and Team Wellington, it was Ryan de Vries' substitute who added a third to put the cherry on the icing on the cake of the first leg for the Navy Blues, and there was little that Basile could do about that. And Ryan de Vries with a big smile on his face. And Auckland City FC lead in the Champions League final 3-0. They take that forward to next week at David Farrington Park, where we will discover which of these two teams will represent Oceania at the FIFA Club World Cup in the UAE in December of this year.
Ramon, you must be very pleased with that performance today.
Yeah, probably pleased. That's the right word. You know, I think we played positionally a very good game. We attacked and defended really well. When you play against a team like Team Wellington, you have to be very careful with how you attack, especially for the way we play. And I think we were very smart in those movements. The players did a fantastic job. And look, it's only one game, so we're happy with it. But we are not taking anything for granted here. We understand the next game is going to be the real final. And it's going to be a big battle down there, you know. So happy with the performance, but there's another game to be played.
As you said, you have to be a bit conservative against a side like Wellington that's very good on the counter-attack. You must be very happy not to have conceded any goals today.
Yeah, I mean, conservative, depending on how you, or what you understand by conservative, you know. I think you have to be very smart with the way you attack. They want us to play back around the back, you know, and put ourselves in danger. They've got very good players in those situations, pinching the ball up there, and you know, Harris and Jackson in transition are very good players, but we also defended well those switches of play that they put in there, and the crosses, you know, where Harris and Jackson, again, are very good players in those situations. They're probably two of the strongest players in the league, you know, so very happy with the way we, again, attacked and defended, but again, it's another game coming up and nothing's decided here.
You have done well over the past 7 consecutive seasons, and most of those games have been one-offs, but like 2014, we're back to a 2-leg. Are you ready for that second match?
Probably not now, you know, but we have to. We're going to have to, because they will, obviously they want to win this as well, and they will do anything possible in their capacity to try and overcome this, and that's understandable, you know. So playing down there is always difficult. The weather can be difficult. You know, that pitch is similar to this one, very tight, so a lot of things happen in a very quick margin of time, you know what I mean? So a lot of things can happen, and these guys have scored a lot of goals in a lot of games, and we need to understand that. So we can't relax until the referee blows the whistle, like today. It's going to be a very intense game again.
Thanks, Ramon. Jose, always tough playing Auckland City. Today seemed like no different, but the performance from your side still had some merit.
Yeah, for sure. Look, the first half, Auckland were right at the top of their game, and it cost us to try and get grips of the game and grips to them. But I think in the second half, albeit we obviously had a big moment with the penalty save from the keeper when we needed it. We showed a lot of control, and we had a lot of the ball, and we asked them a lot of questions. We just probably lacked that little bit of quality in those last final actions in and around the box, and conceding that third goal is a little bit of a blow. But we'll go into the second leg full of confidence.
Yeah. Are you a little bit disappointed you weren't able to get one of those away goals?
Yeah, sure. Look, when you're playing away, you always want to try and nick that goal and have that pressure in the minds of Auckland. But in saying that, we've climbed a few mountains this year, and I said to the boys that look, we felt exactly like how we felt now, and turn things around, and we've just got to climb an even bigger one. Which if anybody can do it, we can.
Yeah. And as you said, if anyone can do it, you can. Do you think Team Wellington can do the business next weekend?
Yeah, sure. Look, you know, we showed enough in that second half that we can, you know, control the game and, you know, move them around and certainly cause them problems. And, you know, we've just got to do our homework, you know, and be a bit smarter in their box and also in our own. And, you know, will give us every chance to, you know, turn the tie around.
Yeah. Do you think Basila was the difference for you guys today?
Yeah, look, you know, as any team, you need to be big at both ends, and, you know, if your strikers aren't performing, then your defenders or your goalkeeper are. And yeah, look, Scott's been huge all season. I think he's really shown his quality throughout the year and got better. And as you said, look, he had 2 or 3 huge moments today, and yeah, you know, that's why he's, you know, where he is.
Thanks, Jose.
Awesome.
So there is confirmation of the match details for next week. Team Wellington have it all to do. They need to come back from a 3-goal deficit, but they get that task on home soil, and that will provide some degree of comfort, I'm sure, despite the result today. I'm Gordon Watson. It's been my privilege to describe the action for you. We'll see you again next week.